everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the new movie, 3,000 Years of Longing. This movie is George Miller's newest film, and he's well known for directing Mad Max Fury Road. The trailer for this film looked really eccentric and interesting and showed a lot of details, so I wanted to check it out. The synopsis is as follows. While attending a conference in Istanbul, Dr. Althea Bini happens to encounter a jinn who offers her 3 wishes in exchange for his freedom. This presents 2 problems. First, she doubts that he's real, and second, because she's a scholar of story and mythology, she knows all the precautionary tales of wishes gone wrong. The jinn pleads his case by telling her fantastical stories of his past. Eventually, she's beguiled and makes a wish that surprises them both. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. This movie can really be seen in 2 parts. The first half of the film involves the jinn telling all sorts of stories about how he's gotten locked in bottles in the past. The second half of the movie comes after Althea makes a wish. And I really thought that the first half of this film was the better of the 2. It kind of reminded me of A Monster Calls with a splash of Cloud Atlas because of the way that the jinn would tell stories and that they'd connect throughout the years. But the downfall of the first half is that there was a lot of interesting characters and people and situations that were not expanded upon when they would have made this story infinitely more interesting. The second half of this movie I thought was extremely boring. This movie had major pacing issues despite being based on a short story. Walking into this movie, I think one of the major issues you have to overcome is that it is nothing like the trailer. The trailer really makes it look like a fast-paced, rambunctious, interesting movie with a lot of quirky things and characters and magic and spells everywhere, and that is not at all what this movie is. And it's hard for me as the viewer to go into a movie after seeing a trailer like that and be like, I kind of feel gypped. This isn't at all the movie that it was advertised to be, and that makes this movie's pacing issues even more egregious. So while the story overall is an interesting one, the way that it was played out on screen and advertised for was very poor. So plot for me gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. This movie is rated R, and literally the only reason why is because of an exuberant amount of extremely obese people in the nude. I think there's some female nudity from a side profile earlier in the film, but the rest of it is just because of one character's fascination with extremely overweight women, and we see a ton of them paraded on screen. Absolutely not family friendly. 3 is acting and script. As far as the acting and script goes, I have no qualms whatsoever. I thought the acting in this movie was great. Idris Elba and Tilda Swinton did an excellent job on screen, and I really liked their conversations that they had. I thought the attention to detail in the script and the storytelling was very well done. These same things are retained in the second half of the film, but I had to just step up my willing suspense of disbelief a bit more. There weren't any other standout acting performances in this movie, but everyone did a great job, so acting and script gets a thumbs up. 4 is character development. Again, the development in this movie is fantastic, and I think that's in large part due to the first half of this movie. Getting to know the story of the jinn and where he's come from and how he's been tricked and how he's ended up in these bottles throughout history is super interesting, and it builds his character very well. And we get to see some really good character development with Althea as well. And it's done in a very natural way of them asking questions and Althea being hesitant to make wishes because of what she knows about these kind of stories in the past. And I think it's really masterfully done. My only gripe with character development is that there are things in both of their pasts and stories that they talk about that are really interesting and I think deserved a bit more time than the half of the movie that was dedicated to after Althea makes a wish. For example, during one of the jinn's stories, there's a character that makes him visibly afraid, as well as there being just a plethora of really interesting and mythological and magical creatures that we see but don't know anything about and don't end up seeing anywhere else in the movie. They could have spent a little more time than that, but that wasn't the direction this film wanted to go, and I understand that. I'm just a little disappointed, especially with the way that the trailer made this film look. But for all intents and purposes, character development gets a thumbs up. 5 is visuals and CGI. Classic George Miller, the CG in this movie is really well done. All the CGI and visuals that you see are very vivid and real and colorful. There's one scene that comes to mind with a man playing an instrument, and the way that that scene unfolds I thought was done very well visually. Other than being bombarded by nudity be, the visuals and CGI in this movie were great. Thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. I think that even after the drastic separation between the tone of the trailer and the tone of the actual movie passes by, that I still wouldn't go back and rewatch this. Even being a slower paced film, this movie has an interesting story, but the film didn't go in the direction that I thought it was going to, and at the end of the day, this movie just felt really boring. I know it may not be what the short story called for, but I think focusing more on the stories of the jinn and the mythology and magic behind that and making it more the tone that the trailer was rather than the actual movie was would have benefited this film a lot. That being said, I think the message behind this movie was good. Just revisiting the cautionary tales about how instant gratification will not always give you what you think you want, and how what you think you want may not be what you actually want in the long run. And that's a good message in and of itself. So while I appreciate that, I think there are other examples that show the same story to the point where, to me, this film is not rewatchable, because it would just remind me of a movie that could have been better than it actually was. So rewatchability gets a thumbs down. With all those areas considered, I have to give 3,000 Years of Longing a 6.5 out of 10. This movie had great storytelling, an awesome script, excellent acting performances, and some visuals that were very stunning. But it was plagued by pacing issues, graphic nudity, a very misleading trailer, and had two halves of a film that had two very drastically different tones and made the ending of this movie feel strange. Because near the end of the film, it felt like I had had 3,000 years of longing for this movie to be over. So with that being said, if you're looking for a slower fantasy romance with some great character building, but some lulls in the story, 3,000 Years of Longing might be something you want to check out in theaters. But don't let the trailer fool you like it has fooled literally everyone else who's gone to see it, because it's not that kind of movie. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen 3,000 Years of Longing, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.